everybody, it's Beth. Welcome to Infinite Garden. This year I am reviewing some old makeup. I'm reviewing Pat McGath Labs Mothership XI Subversive. My plan today is to talk a little bit about the palette itself, show you some swatches and possible color combinations to use within this palette. I want to show you some looks I made. I've been wearing it a lot over the last 2 weeks. I'll show you how I got this look and then I'll finish up with some final thoughts. So if that sounds good to you, please stay tuned. Subversive launched in September 2018 and I did not buy it then. I waited until now, August 2023, to finally buy it, almost 5 years after its release. And I waited this long to buy this one because frankly, this color story intimidated me. When I let my natural hair grow out and I grew out my silver hair, I realized that cool tones in both clothing and makeup actually flatter me more than I realized. And so it gave me a chance to take another look at Subversive. And I got the sense that it might actually be a palette that I can wear. So that is one of the main reasons why I wanted to finally explore it. And then, secondly, the newer Pat McGrath palettes are phasing out the baked shades, these 4 special shades. I love the baked formula, and Subversive wasn't in my collection, and it does contain these 4 baked shades. So I thought, I might as well add these to my collection. So let's talk about what this palette is like. I'm going to walk you through some swatches first. This palette exhibits sort of the standard Pat McGrath anatomy. The light shade is Skin Show Fever, the dark shade is Extreme Black. Pat McGrath included Extreme Black in every one of the first 3 motherships. The next 2 shades are metallics. You have the orchidy purple Night Creature and a velvety, less sparkly bronze called Lazarus. The next 2 shades are a fairly neutral toned brown, medium brown. This is called Deep Shade. And then another sparkly metallic formula called Black Metal. Of all the shades, this is the one that gave me some of the most trouble on the eye, but I'll get into that in a second. And then you have the 4 special shades. The gold is Gigabyte, and it actually leans a little bit green. The particles are extremely fine. When you rub it on your finger, rather than being glittery and flaky, it's incredibly smooth and creates kind of a molten foiled effect, really beautiful. VR Pink is kind of similar, but it has a shift. It shifts from a gold to a pink. It's really beautiful, very wearable. You also have Blitz Amethyst, which is another very finely milled kind of foiled shade. This is an incredible periwinkle purpley blue. This is a super wearable shade for me. And then finally you have Astral Ghost Orchid. This is a flaky whitish pink, really, really sparkly. This palette contains, I think, warm looks and cool looks. One of the things I like so much about these early motherships is that each one of these palettes is almost limitless in terms of the color combinations you can achieve. Even just focusing on what kinds of quads you can make from within this palette, I was very quickly and easily able to put together several different possible quad styles that would create very different eye looks. You could use Subversive over and over again, creating new permutations to create an infinite number of very different eye looks. This is really important. I think one of the things that the earlier motherships offer is a sense of the makeup artist's mind. If you think about a makeup artist going to, a runway show behind the scenes, they're going to need to have a lot of variety at their disposal. And this palette provides that. If you were tasked with getting many people together for a runway show, you could use this one palette many different ways on all of the different folks. I can see that. I found that I was able to get a lot of variety out of Subversive, considering I initially thought it would be hard to wear and primarily a nighttime palette. So over the last 2 weeks, I wore Subversive almost every day. I was trying to really stretch and see how far I could take it. I'm going to show you a couple of clips with my iPhone I took throughout the last 2 weeks playing with Subversive, and I'll show you some of the looks I got. Okay, for this look, I used Lazarus all over my eye, under the eye, and then I used Skin Show Fever here on the inside of my eye, just a little bit, blended those together. And then I topped with Gigabyte. I used Gigabyte in my last look too. I don't know why, but I can't seem to keep my fingers out of Gigabyte. So that is what I used for this eye look here. Black Metal all over my eyes. I applied it with a brush first, and I found that to be pretty patchy. I had my eyes primed, and It caught up in the primer pretty badly and patched a bit. I was able to fix that by applying it with a finger, and then I blended it out with deep shade just around the edges, just around the upper edges. And then I topped with a little bit of Blitz Amethyst. Put a little more on just since I've got it. Don't want to waste that. Do you see what that does? This is what we're talking about with these special shades. Just the instant, super fine, super impactful, elegant shine. Look at that. Okay, this is just Subversive on the eyes. I have Gigabyte and then Deep Shade. Those are the only two colors I have on my eyes. I think that Deep Shade might be a little warm for my complexion, but I am really liking Gigabyte. I don't love this look. It's not super wearable for me, but it is giving me that Pat McGrath original formula. One thing I didn't do during the week was do a very high glam look, so I decided to do that for today's video. So next I'm going to show you how I got this look, and then I'll wrap up with my final thoughts. Okay, I have a nearly full face of Pat McGrath on minus a couple of categories. So during the week, I was mostly focused on how to use Subversive on the daily. What does it look like as a daily palette? But it's Sunday, I've got nowhere to go. I'm gonna go wild actually with this and show you what a Pat McGrath palette can do. So my plan is to channel the vibe of this box, and I'm going to get into the purples and the pinks and the blacks. And I'm going to kind of go a little bit punk rock with this because that was sort of the way that Subversive was differentiated from the other palettes when it was released. So I'm going to start pencil brush like this in the black, and I'm going to start defining my eye with the black shadow. Use a little fluffy brush to blend that out. The amazing thing about Pat's mattes is that you can lay them down almost like a stamp and you get full pigmentation, but they still blend away in a way that is very non-patchy and quite transparent. They're really extraordinary. And so I find that for me, this is one of the easiest matte formulas to use if I want to use a black, which I don't do very often. So this is what it looks like here. I'm going to go into Night Creature. I'm going to use this little tiny brush. Do you see this? It's so pretty. I'm going to blend just a little bit more black in here, just to deepen up and blend around Night Creature. Night Creature is kind of interesting to me because this color was the one that was the most intimidating to me, that I thought would be hardest to wear. But a pinky purple sparkle is actually not outside of my color palette. And since I've been playing with this palette, I've been surprised that it's actually, for me, quite wearable. I think I can pull it off, you know? So I'm just gonna add a little more Night Creature. And then I'm just going to sweep a little bit of the Skin Show, just a little bit, not much, because this actually has a little bit of shimmer and I feel like it can draw attention to texture. So I just put it kind of on the inner bridge of my nose. And then I want to show you the point of the special shades. If you've been watching some of the reviews and people are lamenting about the loss of these 4 baked shades and you haven't experienced them and you don't know why it matters, I'm going to show you what this can do to a look like this. I'm going to go with this one, VR Pink, and I'm going to put that all over the lid. And I wonder if you can see the sparkle that just occurred as a result of that. It's seriously so pretty. Okay, I'm going to now go under the eyes. Maybe I'll do, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do Night Creature under my eyes. I haven't done that yet. I like putting the mid-tone metallics under my eyes. Normally, usually it's a bronze or a neutral shade, but I like doing that even with the shine, the shimmer. I feel like it adds light to my eyes. I'm gonna pop in a little bit of black. I'm gonna put just a little bit of black metal right over this too, just to kind of, oh yeah, play a little bit with. Okay, this is the look. I'm gonna put some mascara on and see how that looks, and then I'll finish the other eye. Okay, here's the before and the after. Okay, what are my final thoughts about Subversive? I love this palette. I'm so glad I finally got it. As you know, if you watched my video kind of unpacking the history of the Mothership, I felt a little bit disappointed in the most recent release, and so I purchased Subversive because I wanted to have the experience of getting a new Mothership again and experiencing the inspiration and the excitement to try something new, to really explore what's possible. I absolutely got that with Subversive. I found most of the shades performed really beautifully. I would say the most problematic shade for me is Black Metal. I was able to make a wearable look out of it, but I found it was the one that was the hardest to use, most likely to flake and maybe leave glitter particles on my face, and the hardest to blend out, but still worth it. I was able to make it work, and I'm glad I did. All of the special shades perform beautifully, and I personally am finding them wearable on me, my skin tone, and my undertones. I found that Deep Shade, which is in another palette, is a good shade, but it does run a little warm on me. It's not my best brown. I think of all of the shades that are kind of brown in Pat McGrath's palettes, some of the best ones for me are the deepest shade in Mothership X. I really love Night Creature. I think that's an incredibly special shade, and I love how it looks on my eyes. I love how it brings out my brown eyes and the green in my brown eyes, and I think it looks good with my skin tone, so I'm expecting to wear Night Creature way more than I ever thought possible. I think that Subversive is a really great palette for glam and for going out. I think it's great for parties, events, anytime you want to feel a little extra and maybe get some drama. That might not be something that's part of everybody's normal life. It is a little bit part of my normal life. I live in Detroit. It's a fun city. There's always a lot to do. There are always events to go to, and I go out to restaurants with friends. People here like to dress up a little bit, which I love, and so for me to put on a dramatic sparkling eye look, it's both something that I love to do, and it's something that is kind of like normal where I live, so this type of palette will actually be useful to me. I did find it just slightly challenging to get kind of a light, wearable, everyday look. Her other palettes, especially Subliminal, and I think Mothership X even, can give you a way to have a daily look that's a little bit low-key. If deeper tones suit you, this one really might be an excellent palette to pick up. Anyway, I really like it. I'm super happy with it. It took me a little while to get the courage to purchase Subversive, but now that I have it in my hands, of course, I realize what a genius palette it is. I've heard so many of you talk about it, Patty Alonso and Alicia Archer and Miriam. I know all of you love Subversive, and I totally get it. I see why. I'm super happy to have it, and I plan to continue to experiment with this into the fall. I actually think it's a really great fall palette. I'm expecting to get quite a lot of use from this into the holiday season. What do you guys think of Subversive? How many of you have it out there? Do you love it? Is it one that you've been looking at? Does it seem like maybe it's not right for you? Let me know in the comments. I always love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. If you are not already subscribed, I invite you to subscribe. Now I post videos on Sunday. We have a very supportive community, and I would love to have you as a part of it. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well out there, and I hope you have a great week ahead. Thank you so much for watching. Talk soon.